Good morning. Good morning. So, look at this. It is the second official Saturday of the year. I know. Um, but look. Well, good morning, Barb. Barb, there's a link out there that'll let you come into the show. Are you interested? I can get you the link here. In fact, I don't know if this will work. We're going to try this. Hold on just a second. Do 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 do. Let me put it in the comments. And there you go. Yeah, if you copy and paste that, you don't need any special software. Um, it's internet based. So basically, you put the link in there and it will show me on my screen that there's somebody waiting, and I'll bring you in and we can talk about it. So, okay, speaking of talk about it, what are we going to talk about? Well, I thought we would talk a little bit about some of the parameters required with digitizing. Hey, Jesse, how you going? How you going? How you doing? Jesse is from West Virginia. Yeah. Oh, what a week it's been. I don't know. It's the new year. The holiday season is over. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning. So the holiday season is over and we're in the new year, and I just feel exhausted. I know. I just can't seem to find my rhythm. Better come back quick, right? Yeah. I just want to not do much of anything, but I am. I am. Um, so yeah, let's talk about some digitizing parameters. Talk about some common digitizing considerations. Let me find my handy dandy tablet pen. We are going to. I know. Oh, you're still working on orders from December, Cindy. There are not enough hours in the day, right? It's and then for me, the hours I have, I just want to stop in the middle for a few hours, and then I'll come back to it. But I don't know. The rhythm is gone. Okay, so I'm gonna pop this over here. Look at that. Yeah. Here's one of the things I wanted to talk about. When digitizing, oops, that was too big. There we go. When digitizing, if you have two elements, we're going to divide this into two pieces, and why did that happen? Looks like I broke it apart. Oh, I must have. Okay, so let's try this again. If you have two pieces laying next to each other, what's going to happen when you stitch that out? We're going to go a little bit larger. You see our lines here. I know, Cindy, isn't that the truth? Cindy had several companies order at the end of the month, at the end of December, and like she said, She's glad to have the work for January because after the holiday season, January is usually kind of a slower month. So she's glad to have the orders, um, but she wanted just a little bit of downtime. Okay, so back to our two filled elements next to each other. What's going to happen when these get stitched out? They are going to pull apart and leave a gap between the two. So we're going to change this one's color. Let's make that one red. There you go. And we're going to enlarge this again just a little bit more. There we go. So yeah, they're sitting next to each other like so. And when they stitch, the push and pull, depending on the direction of the angles, are going to pull them apart. Well, how do you compensate for that? Yeah, that's the word, compensate. Yes, you could probably use the system compensation, but it may not compensate enough. So, what do you do? Hello, Anthony. Good morning. Good morning. So, we're going to take this back down because I need to see my nodes. Yeah. See that bounding box right there? That's what I need to see. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put one of them over or under the other. So if there's just the slightest overlap, let's take a look and see what this overlap measures. Almost perfect. I like to have a 1 millimeter overlap, but anything between zero point 0.5 and 1 millimeter is good. So what's going to happen now is the green is going to stitch over the top of the red by approximately 1 millimeter. And what that's going to do is there's still going to be that that push and pull, but it's going to compensate for itself. There's still enough there underneath it to have the top layer under still cover it. And yes, Cindy, if we were doing extreme contrast, I would definitely put the lighter color under the darker color. So for example, if this was our contrast, if we were doing black and white, I would put the black over the top, and we can hide this and see that that is just the case here. So now we have two layers there, which is awesome, which is not bad at all. And at our standard 40.40 density setting, that's not going to be a real issue. As long as the needle penetrations don't land in the same place, as long as there's enough distance between them, um, a 40 density is not going to be an issue. Now, if I made this a dot 20 and made this one a dot 20, that actually gets really, really dense. Let's, again, we're going to bring this all the way up again. I want you to see the needle penetrations. Oops. Good morning. Good morning, Lisa. And the nice thing about working with digitizing theory is that it spans all the software. It is not just one software that can make this stitch course I'm using hand gestures here that you can't see. It's not just one software that can do this stitching. They all can do this stitching. So, okay, so we're going to go back up again, and I'm going to change this back to the dot 40s just because I want you to see. Okay. Now, if you don't know, the um, the 40 the dot 40 is actually the distance not between each set of lines. Cindy has a question here regarding the overlap. What if you put an underlay for the whole thing and then add your tops? Could you butt the two together? She's concerned about stitch count. Well, I tell you what, let's take this backwards just a little bit more. We're going to undo. Okay, I'm going to change this back to red because I like the boldness on the colors. Can you see the line? Those two pieces are now up together. What you can't see here is the stitch count because it's way down here in the corner, and that's where I am. Um, the stitch count is 3,751 stitches. So, about 3,700 stitches. Now, let's go forward. You put that back there. I'm going to drop this down. And come on. All we want is to pull this over about a millimeter, right? Okay. So we had about 3,700 stitches. Actually, 3,760, which becomes important because now we have increased our stitch count by 46 stitches. Our count now is 3,809. Oh, I'm sorry, 49 stitches. I think 49 stitches in the grand scheme of things is worth the assurance that I'm not going to have any gapping. And for some reason, my stitch angle changed. So let's do that. Let's change our stitch angles back. That's better. Okay. Our stitch angles, changing our stitch angle, actually added another 80 stitches. So we're still less than 100 stitches in the overall stitch count. I don't think that's anything that we need to be concerned with, but we're still going to maintain our overlap so that when the push and pull happens, there's no gapping, because that's what we want. We want no gapping. And yes, underlay can play a part in the whole thing, depending on what you're doing, what the size of the element is. An underlay, for example, an edge run underlay, which is, and I'm going to do this differently. An edge run underlay, come on, which just runs the outer edge. Okay, we can talk about that, Cindy. Cindy's saying that she figured it was better because she's had products where she's had two elements come together like that, and they pushed together and caused a ripple in the center of the fabric in the fold. cause a fold in the fabric. Okay, so you have your edge run, and what that's going to do is it's actually going to secure your fabric to the stabilizer. Um, which your edge run, it can hold things in place. And then of course your tatami stitch, your underlay looks something. How do we want to demonstrate that? So we want to just go up there. Lisa, that's exactly it. It appeals to her geeky side, digitizing, because there's so many moving parts. One thing is going to affect the whole of the rest. And this thing plus this thing is going to cause a whole different effect. And that's what digitizing does. Okay, so tatami underlay. Did you see those lines just bump up there? The tatami, which is just a wide gapped loose density fill, secures your fabric to the stabilizer and gives a base for your top stitches to lay. A double tatami does that in two different directions. The other thing a double tatami will do is it will actually lift your thread up off the fabric. It's like um, it's like a suspension bridge. Okay, you start over here and you suspend over the top of the fabric and end here with your next stitch penetration. So once all that thread is suspended and lifted up, you can't really see under it to see the fabric. Okay, so where was I going with all of this? I wanted to talk to you about how layering changes your density in the place where they overlap. Cindy, that's what this is about. This is about asking questions as they come up. Okay? We were going on about something and you had a thought, but what if I did this? And rather than wait until we're well past, you said, I have this question, and we answered it. Now, we'll go back to our density. So I'm going to take off the tatami double underlay here. There we go. We're back. I'm going to enlarge this again. And just so you know, the measurement between the measurement for density is not regarding the two lines of stitches that lay next to each other. That's actually considered one line of stitch. It starts here, it goes over here, and then comes back again. That is one line of stitch. And Lisa, that's exactly it. That's why I like doing this. So we don't want to measure from one line of stitch. We want to measure from the second line of stitch, two lines. So we're going to measure from here to here, from one point to the next point. That's where your density comes into play. Now, let's see how much larger we can get this. So what I want you to see is that our green, we got to find a better way to show you this because this is so light. All right. Our green line, our green edge of stitches, oh gosh, ends there. And our red line of stitches ends here. And I don't know what that stitch is. Where'd you come from? Oh, evidently sewing me. Let's try that again. Oh, what a day. I have no idea what's going on here. It will not let me make a stitch. Get rid of those. Get rid of those. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. There we go. There's a stitch. Okay. So that's where the edge, that's where our stitch penetrations are happening. The red, this is the red stitch penetration. This is the green stitch penetration. And that's good. With our 40 density setting at 40, this space here where they've overlapped, you now have twice as many threads. So this is going to sound really hard. Well, at least it was for me, the concept that I have dot 40 and dot 40. If I add those together, equal dot 80, but that's not the actual density. Okay. Density means how many in a space. So we have twice as many. So it's not dot 80, it's dot 20. Okay. So if I have a stitch here and a stitch here, that's my 40, my standard default fill. And I put another layer of stitching. So now I have twice as many stitches in that same space. Now I have a dot 20 in my density. Okay. And that's okay. We can still do that. What we can't do, what we need to be aware of, is putting a bunch of stitches in the same place. So now that I have my 2 points here, what if I take and I want to cover up those two edges because, who wants to look at edges? Oops, there we go. So I put another layer here. So now I have 3 layers. I have just tripled the density. Now our 40 is now like a 10. The more layers you put in place, the thicker that space is. The more thread you put in that place, the more distortion you're going to have in your fabric. That, that distortion is going to show up in ripples. It's going to show up as puckering. And depending on how heavy the density is and what the fabric is, it could actually curl and cup your design file on the fabric. And you really, there's nothing you can do once you've done that. You can press it out, but that just temporarily lays the fabric differently. The minute you wash it, the minute you wear it, the minute you do anything with fabric, it changes. It's like a living thing. If you apply heat or moisture, it's going to change the structure or the lay of the fabric. You've just added 3 layers of stitches to a piece of fabric that was perfect the way it came to you, and now you've distorted it and caused issues with your fabric with the layers. Now, one of the things you could do instead of using a fill, you can use a satin stitch. The nice thing about a satin stitch, and let's go back to that fill again. We're going to hide these other two pieces. I'm going to hide those. And then we're going to come up. This particular stitch has our standard default 40 dot 40 density. The stitch length is 4 millimeters. A 4 millimeter stitch length. We're going to do this. Yeah, that's not going to demonstrate. Okay. How many stitches? If this is, oh, well, that's not too bad. Could be worse. If this is 3 millimeters wide and our stitch length is 4 millimeters, that means that it's making one stitch left to right each way. Okay, that's just one stitch. We take the same thing and we made that wider. Now it's 7 millimeters wide. How many stitches are there? Let's see if we can find our stitch. Oh, there we go. Each one of those dots is a stitch. Each one of those dots is a stitch penetration into your fabric. That doesn't work well. Let's go back down to our, where were we? That's right, it's about 3. Oh, look, I was wrong. There it is. There's the stitch penetrations for 3 millimeters. It's still, it's still causing, all those stitch penetrations is causing density issues. But if we change this to a satin, the only the only stray stitch penetrations we have is for the underlay. Otherwise, it's a left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And that's okay as long as our satin stitch penetrations are someplace other than our fill stitch penetrations. Because we don't want to lay this, we don't want to lay a thread in the same penetration. You make you make a stitch, you make a needle penetration, you leave 2 threads behind, right? It's going to catch, the thread's going to catch at the bobbin. It's going to come back up. It's going to leave 2 threads, one that came from the right, one that goes to the left, or the other way around. And you're doing that with every stitch. So if you lay 4 stitches, 3 stitches in the same place, that one penetration is going to have 6 extra stitches. And it's going to cause a bulk. And it's going to cause, it's going to be too tight. And it's going to cause needle, could be needle deflection, which is a needle break, can cause friction, extreme friction with your thread, which is going to stretch it and pull it and shred it and cause a thread break. So keep in mind, when you ask your digitizer or when you're making designs for yourself, you need to have that overlap to prevent the gapping, but you want to be careful where the stitch penetrations go. You want to be careful that you're not putting too much in one place. Not only, oh gosh, yes. Cindy says not only the bulk, but the bird's nest. If it, you get so many stitches in one place and the needle makes that chunky sound trying to get through everything, the needle coming up is going to leave more thread and it's going to get all tangled up under there. Just like when you want to trim between every letter of a 26 character line of text, um, for every trim, you're leaving two 1 inch tails behind that again get all caught up and tangled in. So basically, that's what I wanted to talk to everybody about. I just wanted to talk about why there's an overlap when you have your, yeah, and then your fabric is stuck in the stitch plate. Cindy, you are absolutely right. And then you have to get out your little knife or your scissors and you have to try to lift it all up and cut it away. And you never cut just the thread. Your project now has a massive gaping hole in it and you have to start over. And that becomes, that fabric becomes a great test piece for another job. Yeah. Okay. So are there any yeah. We Barb's got this cheesy grin. She's thinking, I'm sure, yeah, we've all been there. And Anthony, yeah, we've all done it. I've done it more than once. Lisa, Lisa Shaw, she's been there. Cindy's been there. We've all done it. And you know what I tell new embroidery people? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. As long as you don't drop your machine on its head, it's everything can be corrected, can be fixed. Yes, Cindy, that is exactly today's conversation. Stitch points and penetrations. Part of the learning. Yes, it is. Barb was saying that she's definitely been there, that it's all part of the learning. Okay. So I tell you what, we're going to end today. Um, do you guys like the digitizing? Do you want to continue with that or do you want to talk about something else next week? Oh, do not throw the drop on the head out into the universe. Universe, that was not me requesting that I drop my machine on its head. Just an example of what that it is not broken if we don't do it. Does that help, Lisa? All right. So yeah, Barb's talking more digitizing next week. Okay, we can do that. If you've got something specific you want to try, want me to go over, I'll be happy to. Cindy's also voting yes for digitizing. Okay, we'll do that. We will do more digitizing next week. Um, yeah, let me know if there's anything else. If there's anything specific you want to talk about. Jesse is right there with everybody. Jesse wants more digitizing. Okay, we can do that. All right. Okay, well, with that, I am going to go and say goodbye.
Wasn't that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.
Have a good week.